What happens when a global superpower finally loses its patience and unleashes the most devastating, technologically advanced weapons ever created upon an enemy's ultimate trap? For decades, military experts have warned that a certain narrow waterway held the entire global economy hostage, but no one could have predicted the sheer brutality of the response. Before we dive deep into exactly how this terrifying military chess match unfolded, please take a quick second to hit the subscribe button and drop a like on this video. Share it with someone who needs to understand the massive shift in modern warfare. The story begins with a desperate gamble. Iran believed it had played its absolute final unbeatable trump card. The ultimate strategy was terrifyingly simple but highly effective: completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz. As a critical part of this nightmare scenario, highly trained Iranian naval forces secretly laid at least 12 incredibly destructive Maham 3 and Maham 7 limpet mines. These mines were placed deep within the dark waters. The leadership in Tehran was absolutely convinced they were executing a flawless, impenetrable master plan. And for a brief, terrifying moment, it seemed like they had succeeded. The global markets panicked and international shipping ground to a terrifying halt. However, the response that Washington brought to the table was of a kind that would completely overshadow even the darkest, most terrifying nightmares of the Iranian command. The American war machine, finally operating at its absolute maximum capacity, unleashed a devastating apocalyptic storm of aerial bombardment that literally tore the dark sky apart. The legendary terrifying A-10 Warthog aircraft swooped down from the clouds. Their deadly massive 20mm rotary cannons violently pounded the dark, rocky waters. The sheer volume of explosive firepower was impossible to comprehend. Within moments, Iran's brilliant master plan to slowly choke the global economy had literally sunk. But the true genius of this American counterattack was not just the raw explosive power from the sky. In fact, a highly secretive deployment was made. This deployment could permanently rewrite the fate of the entire region. The highest levels of the United States military command were completely aware of the situation. They knew they could not secure absolute control of this highly contested region through massive air operations alone. They needed something closer to the water. In this specific context, the American military completely surprised the Iranian forces by executing a brilliant, highly asymmetric move directly from the surface of the sea itself. In a groundbreaking official statement made directly to Reuters in late March, a high-ranking Pentagon spokesperson confirmed a major development. For the very first time, it was confirmed that highly advanced, entirely unmanned drone boats were actively patrolling the treacherous waters during Operation Epic Fury. The United States had officially deployed highly sophisticated robotic speedboats directly into the hostile waters of the Gulf. According to many top-tier naval experts, the perfect time for this technological revolution had long since arrived. The brand new player successfully deployed to this incredibly dangerous battlefield was known as the GARC. This is a 5-meter-long, incredibly fast, entirely autonomous speedboat produced by a highly secretive technology firm based in Maryland. These incredible vessels are capable of entirely autonomous, self-directed navigation without a human pilot. They successfully patrolled the waters for 450 hours. They possess the incredible capability to travel over 2,200 nautical miles without needing to refuel or rest during the mission. The primary initial missions of these silent robotic vessels were constant surveillance and providing critical early warning detection against enemy movements. However, when the situation demands immediate, violent action, these highly advanced boats can also be used as direct, devastating kamikaze attack vehicles. They are specifically effective against Iran's notoriously fast and deadly attack boats. Early in the massive conflict, Iranian forces had brazenly attacked commercial oil tankers, twice using their own naval drones. The Iranians provoked a response. The United States military had faced intense, aggressive criticism for being far too slow. But with the sudden, massive deployment of these incredible autonomous vessels, the American military finally began to play its own highly advanced game on the water. As this brand new, highly intelligent autonomous shield was successfully established on the sea surface, the truly devastating, earth-shattering blow was preparing to fall. If you are fascinated by how advanced technology is completely rewriting the rules of global conflict, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share. As the chaotic month of March drew to a close during this incredibly critical phase of the war, the American president officially issued the final order. This was the unyielding order for the decisive military strike required to fully and permanently reopen the vital Strait of Hormuz. The incredibly complex preparation for this massive order was carried out as part of a terrifyingly large, heavily coordinated military plan. The United States confidently launched one of the absolute heaviest, most incredibly extensive aerial bombardment operations in the entire history of modern warfare. Iran's carefully constructed capacity to violently block the strait began to completely crumble within mere hours of the first bombs falling. This specific story is not merely a fascinating tale of explosive war. It has officially become a massive historical turning point. Determining the ultimate fate of global energy security for the next century was the primary goal. The American leadership had to forcefully reopen the strait. In pursuit of this incredibly vital goal, the world witnessed perhaps the most brutally effective military maneuver since the very onset of this global crisis. For a brief, terrifying moment, a deep, unnatural silence reigned completely along the heavily fortified Iranian coast of the Strait of Hormuz. But this heavy silence was simply the calm before an apocalyptic storm because massive United States bomber aircraft had firmly set their deadly course. They flew directly toward Iran's absolute most heavily fortified, deeply buried underground military facilities. The ultimate target was crystal clear to the pilots. They were hunting the massive missile silos and vast weapons depots belonging to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, buried incredibly deep within mountain slopes. These were absolutely no ordinary military facilities. They had been under careful, obsessive construction by Iranian engineers for decades. They were heavily reinforced with unimaginably thick layers of solid concrete and natural mountain rock to withstand a significant attack. It was considered nearly mathematically impossible to successfully destroy them using standard, conventional military bombs. But the terrifying weapon that officially made its combat debut that dark night was absolutely anything but conventional. It was the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator. This is a brand new, highly classified generation of bunker-busting bomb exclusively developed by the Air Force. Weighing exactly 5,000 pounds, which is approximately 2,270 kilograms of pure destructive force, this monster is extremely advanced. It is equipped with highly advanced GPS and INS guidance systems. This terrifying bomb can successfully reach its intended target with incredible accuracy. It can hit within just a few mere meters, whether it is day or night, entirely regardless of heavy clouds or thick battlefield smoke. This massive technological advantage was fully and violently reflected in that incredibly high-risk area surrounding the Strait of Hormuz. The massive GBU-72, positioned perfectly right in the middle, offered a devastating solution that was both overwhelmingly powerful and incredibly flexible. Multiple massive bombs of this highly advanced type were intentionally dropped on heavily hardened targets located strictly along the rugged northern shore. These specific targets were deeply buried underground caves where the Iranian military carefully stored its most deadly anti-ship cruise missiles. Incredibly deadly missiles like the Noor, the Qadr, and the highly feared Abu Mahdi were safely hidden inside these dark caves. These missiles are specifically designed to fly terrifyingly close to sea level to sneakily target massive ships. The Noor is based on the C-802. It boasts an impressive deadly range of roughly 120 to 170 kilometers. The Qadr is an upgraded version. The Qadr can successfully cover a massive, wide area of the vital strait with an incredible range of 200 to 300 kilometers. But the Abu Mahdi is absolutely the most dangerous and terrifying of the three weapons, with an unbelievable range exceeding 1,000 kilometers. It can successfully strike vulnerable commercial ships located far away in the Gulf of Oman. However, these assets were instantly crushed into dust. Highly valuable Iranian mobile missile launchers, complex missile radar relays, and intelligence points were also a major part of the target list. The massive GBU-72 violently accelerated using raw kinetic energy after being cleanly dropped from an incredibly high altitude, striking with terrifying force. Its incredibly thick, solid steel body effortlessly penetrated the heavy concrete and solid rock, reaching deep into the mountain. This terrifying bomb officially has the capacity to physically penetrate over 60 meters of solid soil or over 20 meters of reinforced concrete. Thanks to its highly advanced, brilliantly designed delayed fuse, it successfully detonated only after it had fully and completely penetrated deep inside. The resulting massive underground shockwave instantly collapsed the complex underground structures entirely from within, leaving nothing standing. Iran's incredibly expensive, decades-old underground military infrastructure was violently reduced to useless rubble in a single terrifying night of bombing. The top commander of the American forces in the region made the official statement incredibly clear to the world. Iran's carefully constructed capacity to violently threaten commercial shipping traffic in the Strait of Hormuz had been significantly weakened. According to the top American admiral, Iran's highly prized missile stockpile had been violently reduced by an unbelievable 90%. Their massive fleets of fast boats were suddenly rendered completely immobile. This was an absolute military revolution that unfolded in a single night. The massive GBU-72 had officially made military history by being successfully used in a real, highly destructive war for the very first time. If you are amazed by the sheer scale of this military operation, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. But according to the highly cautious United States Military Command, this massive destruction was simply not enough to fully restore absolute security. Even though Iran's massive underground silos and expensive missile launch pads had been destroyed, there were still terrifying, highly mobile threats. These threats were rapidly moving on the actual surface of the strait. They were incredibly small, but extremely deadly to international shipping. Just 2 short days after the massive bunker-busting bomb made its terrifying combat debut, the United States proudly announced its second military move. During a highly classified briefing at the Pentagon, top American generals clearly and aggressively highlighted this second striking element. They were directly referring to the legendary A-10 Thunderbolt, the terrifyingly effective aircraft universally known to everyone as the Warthog. The brand new mission of this incredible flying platform, originally designed in the 70s, was critical in the skies over the strait. The specific targets of these aircraft in the second phase were the highly dangerous fast attack boats heavily affiliated with the Iranian military. These incredibly small but highly agile surface vessels operated entirely using highly coordinated swarm tactics to overwhelm their targets. Dozens of these heavily armed boats could simultaneously attack a massive, vulnerable commercial tanker from many different chaotic angles. Devastating attacks were actively being carried out at incredibly close range, directly against civilian commercial ships peacefully passing through. The terrifying A-10 Warthog was the absolute ideal, perfect weapon against this highly asymmetric maritime threat. It sits right at the heart of the fight. At the very heart of the A-10 aircraft lies a massive 30mm 7-barrel rotary cannon famously known as the GAU-8 Avenger. It can violently fire an unbelievable 3,900 rounds per minute, shredding any target in its path. Its incredibly heavy, armor-piercing rounds can easily shred a small, agile, fast attack boat into tiny, useless pieces in mere seconds. But the true, terrifying power of the A-10 does not come solely from its massive cannon. Its unique ability to fly low is critical. It actually flies at the much slower speeds of the propeller-driven aircraft, not the blistering speeds of a modern jet fighter. This unique design allows it to patiently control the designated target area for many hours on end without needing to leave. It can also carry highly explosive Maverick missiles and deadly rockets as heavy secondary weapons under its wings for added lethality. In other words, the terrifying A-10 serves perfectly as both a long-endurance surveillance platform and a brutal, flying combat machine. According to official military statements, these legendary aircraft were successfully using all of these incredible game-changing capabilities. They were used to aggressively hunt down and completely destroy the Iranian attack boats hidden in the Strait of Hormuz. Additionally, highly advanced Apache attack helicopters were violently operating in absolutely perfect coordination with the planes. Using their own highly accurate missiles and powerful 30mm cannons, they were systematically taking out the mobile, surface-based threats. This incredibly deadly dual combination completely and utterly neutralized Iran's highly praised swarm tactics on the open water. The massive small boat fleet, which had previously blocked 27% of all traffic, began suffering incredibly heavy, unsustainable losses. The Iranian military's hundreds of highly prized fast attack boats had suddenly become terrified targets themselves under the relentless American air cover. Moreover, the long, patient loiter time of the aircraft allowed the highly vulnerable American minesweeping ships to safely operate much more freely. Because while the terrifying planes were circling loudly in the air, absolutely no Iranian boat dared to surface to lay new explosive mines. This incredible aircraft became the absolute second key weapon required to permanently unlock the Strait of Hormuz for global commerce. But the massive operation's brutal impact was absolutely not limited simply to the physical destruction of military vehicles on the ground. The absolute key figure heavily directing the weapons and complex tactical maneuvers was also violently eliminated from the battlefield. Top Israeli leadership proudly announced the incredible, highly critical nighttime operation that fundamentally altered the entire course of the crisis. The top admiral serving as the powerful commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy was successfully killed in a targeted strike. The strike was carried out in the strategic southern port city of Bandar Abbas. This was absolutely no ordinary military casualty. This man was the highest-ranking Iranian military officer responsible for the aggressive closure and the dangerous mine-laying operations. The Allied leadership proudly presented this as a massive sign of their close, unbreakable partnership with the American administration. They sent a very clear, terrifying message directly to the Iranian leadership. We will systematically track you down, one by one. Confirmation of this massive strategic victory soon came directly from the United States Central Command as well, confirming the kill. Top American admirals noted that this commander had aggressively harassed the terrified crews of thousands of innocent merchant ships over 8 years. He had personally ordered the attacks on hundreds of vulnerable vessels using deadly kamikaze drones and various other asymmetric methods. Top American defense officials briefly summarized the current situation in a single, incredibly clear sentence during a high-level cabinet meeting. They stated plainly that Iran simply no longer possesses a functional navy or living naval commander to direct their forces. These incredible air assets are currently carrying out massive strategic strike missions whenever they choose, operating with complete impunity. Following this massive, devastating two-phase wave of brutal attacks, the entire geopolitical situation changed incredibly dramatically for everyone involved. In the destructive first phase, bunker-busting bombs destroyed underground depots. In the second, aircraft eliminated remaining surface-based mobile threats. However, these absolutely flawless operations were certainly not carried out in a single, spontaneous overnight raid by the coalition. They were carefully preceded by a massive, highly systematic bombing campaign that lasted for many long, terrifying weeks. Under the banner of Operation Epic Fury, massive, long-range American bomber aircraft have proudly taken the absolute lead so far. The B-2 Spirit stealth bombers successfully carried out highly destructive nighttime strikes directly on Iran's most sensitive ballistic missile facilities. These silent bombers, departing from the United States mainland, conducted grueling 37-hour non-stop flights using complex in-flight refueling. Thanks to stealth technology, Iran's air defense systems were unable to detect them as they struck the deepest, most secret facilities. Meanwhile, the fast B-1B Lancer and massive B-52 bombers have been heavily deployed since early March to destroy missile depots. To ensure you don't miss our next deep dive into modern global conflict, please hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video.